Hi, Lucky Penny members. This video is especially for you. Today I'm going to talk to you about fairies, and before you turn me off as being crazy, just listen. I'm going to tell you about my experience, and then I'm going to talk about something else, a couple of other people's experiences. But first, let me say this. The winner of the March tarot deck is Donna Smith. Congratulations, Donna. You have won a copy of the Zend Out Journey Tarot, and it will be coming to you by the U.S. Postal Service either Saturday, April 6th. I'm looking at my calendar. Hold on. Yeah. Saturday, April 6th or Monday, April 8th. That is the best estimate that the man gave me. So congratulations, and I hope you enjoy it. You'll have to let me know. All right, now back to the fairies. I live in the country, out in the country, and when my husband and I moved here, next door, if you're at the back of my house facing toward the back, not facing away from the house, there was a woods, and to the right is farm, a pasture. The house is about at least an acre away, maybe more. And then to the left is like another small woods, and then probably another acre away or a little more is another house. Now, at this point, there's a house behind us, not directly behind us, but behind us to the left now, because we didn't buy that land quickly enough and someone got it and built there. But anyway, that's beside the point. So in the backyard, we built a little shed, and I'm going to show you a picture of it so you can kind of get an idea of what I'm talking about. Okay, so there's a little shed in the backyard. Now that corner of the yard where the shed is has always had a really kind of eerie feeling. Now, I couldn't put my finger on it, but when we first moved in, I always had a feeling when I looked back there, like back in this area, I always had a feeling that something was watching me, okay? Call that crazy. You know, I'm out in the country. Maybe I'm just imagining things. But I always felt that way. And my husband said he felt that it was kind of creepy too back there. Well, I'm not sure that I feel it was creepy, but, you know, it's just kind of like something is back there. And so I said to him, you know, if there's a such thing as fairies, that's where they live. I'm sure of it, because I get that feeling as somebody's back there. Somebody or something is back there. Now, I have to tell you a couple of things that relate to this. And the first thing I'm going to tell you is that he was out doing yard work one day, and I was out in the back as well. And I stood at my back door and I waved over toward the corner of the yard, back toward where, if there were fairies, that's where they would be. Let me find it again. I waved back there and I said, "Hi, fairies." Something silly, like, I don't even remember because it was like 4 years ago, but I said something like, "I'd like to be friends," or, you know, something like that. And I was just kind of being funny. I mean, but, you know, if there were, I mean, hey, you never know. All right. So the next day, I swear to you, I came out. There is a little fence that you can't see right here. That is a metal fence. That's just like chicken wire. That's not ours. That's the farmer people next door put up. And I swear to you, attached to that chicken wire was grass folded over it in the shape of a person. Now, when I tell you this, I wish I would have taken pictures of it. I didn't. I was sort of freaked out. And I said to my husband, "Do you see that?" And he said, "Yeah, did you put that doll there?" And I'm like, "No." So I'm going to draw you quickly how it was. The grass was folded over. It was kind of tied here. It came down like this. And there were two pieces of grass up here connected to the wire like arms. Like someone was out there waving at me. It was probably about a foot tall. Now, that grass could not have been tangled around that fence like that. Well, I guess it could have. I mean, anything's possible. But it was just put in such a way that it looked like a person with their arms up like they were waving. I kid you not. I would not make this up. And my husband actually thought I did it, and I wondered if he did it, but he said he didn't do it, and he was a little bit flipped out. And he said, don't mess with that. Leave it alone. Whatever it is, leave it alone. Well, it stayed up there for a few weeks, and then it kind of deteriorated and fell down. And I was a little freaked out, to be honest with you, because I didn't know what was going on. But I knew that there was no one possibly in the neighborhood or in the area that could have known that I said hi to the fairies and waved to them. I mean, like, no one. And so that happened. And then probably a couple years later, I mean, nothing happened. But every time I went back in the yard over there, I got that feeling, and my husband did too. That something's back there, something's different, and weird about it. And so I started reading books about fairies. So I got Finding Fairies. I got the Fairy Bible. I even read Sylvia Browne's situation about in her experience with fairies, and I got this Forest Fae deck, which I did finally review. And it's really kind of cute. And every time when I bought it, the lady at the metaphysical shop, she said, be careful when you work with fairies because they're tricksters. Okay. And she was deadly serious. And I said, oh, okay. And so the funny thing is, every time I went to review this deck, something would happen. My camera would cut out, or I would have computer problems or whatever. So I finally gave up. And then a few months after I didn't do it anymore, I just finally said one day, fairies, can I please, review this deck? And then I tried, and then nothing happened that time. So I was talking to somebody at a metaphysical store. And if you ever want to talk about fairies, that's about the only place you can go, mostly, where you won't be treated like a lunatic. And so I was just talking about, fairies and the thing in the backyard. She said, well, have you ever left any offerings for them? And I said, no. And she said, well, they like shiny things, and they like sweet things. And so I started reading about it. And so I thought, I got one of these big shells, which mine has sage in it right now. But I got one of those, and and here you can see it in this picture. And I put some things on it. I put a thimble full of honey. I put part of a cookie on a bottle cap. I put shiny things, because a sequin, a coin, a little seashells. Here's a little crystal and a necklace, and there's a brooch, a little tiny one. And I put those there. Here's even a little sequin Christmas tree. And so I put those kind of in a hidden area over by the fence where that little straw or grass doll was. And I put it over there. Now, I'm not kidding you. And so I sort of hid it like this. And the next day I came back, and the cookie was gone. I don't have a picture of that, but the cookie was gone, and I had a picture, but I didn't copy it off of my camera, and then right now my printer's broken, so I couldn't do it. But anyway, the next day, I swear to you, the honey was gone from the cup, and the cookie was gone, or the candy bar, whatever I'd left that time. And it was gone. And my husband said, well, animals probably got it. It's like, could animals really have emptied that little thimble of honey and eaten that little cookie piece off of that bottle cap and left the thimble perfectly in the same place but empty, and the bottle cap perfectly in the same place with a cookie, or that with empty, whatever it was. Oh, I know, that's a part of a Twix bar. That's what that is. And the Twix bar was gone. The bottle cap was empty. The thimble was empty of honey, and there were no bugs anywhere. Although I guess ants could have eaten the honey. I mean, I guess it was the next day when I looked at it. I guess that would be long enough. But I mean, there were no crumbs or anything. That was just empty. And if I can find those pictures, I will look at it. And then this picture was, I started putting some grapes there and some other things too. And so I did this like every day, every other day or something, to see what would happen. And then there were days when it was all messed up, and then I knew animals had gotten it, right? So at that time, my son came to live with us for a while. It ended up being a year. And he's in his late 20s. And so one day he just wondered what I kept doing, going in the backyard with that. And so I told him, and he just sort of thought I was like crazy. And I got this idea to document the whole thing. But then I kind of got a really bad feeling that I shouldn't do that, that if there really were fairies, they would not be happy with that. Now, here are a couple pictures of the area back there where I'm talking about. It's really kind of a foresty. I can always imagine, this one has lines from my printer, but you can kind of get an idea. And I could always imagine like little people up in the trees watching. I mean, if they're there, that would be a perfect place for them to be, because it's just all kind of viney and almost jungly back there. So I did this for a while, and I started taking pictures, and I thought, you know, I'm going to document this, and I'm going to make a video about it. But then something happened that stopped me dead in my tracks. Okay, my dog Kitty, as some of you already know Kitty, because like I talk about him all the time, and half the time he barks in the videos, and he's in some of the videos. But anyway, one day, he has a 40-foot, like, rope out there. Okay, so it has like one of those little metal things you screw in the ground, and he can pretty much go in the whole backyard. And so one day I went out and I saw something in the yard, and I couldn't tell what it was. And this was right about the time where I was getting the bad feeling about documenting this whole thing, because I feel like, this is probably going to sound cray, but I felt like I shouldn't be doing that, but I was doing it because, like, weirdly enough, I like to experiment with things and see what happens, and then I like to share my results, and that's what I was intending to do. But I had a feeling that I should not do that, but I still was doing it. But anyway, this one day I went out in the backyard, and I saw something laying in the yard, over in the direction of where I'd been putting, you know, probably 10 feet away from where I'd been putting the cookies, and maybe 10 to 15 feet away. There was a rabbit laying there. Okay, the rabbit was laying on its back. It was cut open, straight down the middle, opened up, and I could see all of its organs in there. Nothing had been chewed, nothing had been clawed, nothing was torn up. It was just an opened up rabbit laying there with its guts inside showing. And by the way, I didn't even know. I'm not a medical person at all, and I never even realized that internal organs are different colors. How weird is that? Okay, so anyway, it did not look like it had been mauled by any animals. There was no fur anywhere. It was just opened down the middle, opened up. There were its guts. Ew. So my husband doesn't work, so I took pictures of it, and I showed him, and I said, what the heck? And I couldn't imagine what had done that. Okay, but the strangest part is, my dog is Beagle Jack Russell mix. Now, wouldn't you think a dog would be all over a dead rabbit? Okay, he was afraid of it. He would not go within like 3 or 4 feet of it. He would not go near it. He was afraid of it. Okay, so that's one thing that I thought was really peculiar. So I was not going to touch that rabbit. I wanted my husband to clean it up. So I sort of, you know, the dog stayed away from it. I didn't even have to tell him to. And I just left it there for the next morning because I thought, I'm not cleaning this up. My husband could take care of it. Plus, I wanted him to see it because it was the weirdest thing. So, next morning I go out. Guess what? The rabbit carcass is completely gone. Like gone. Like no trace of it was there. There was no trace of it. There was maybe one little hair tuft, like about 3-4 feet away from where it was. There was nothing. There were no guts. It certainly didn't look like an animal had dragged it away. It didn't even look like an animal had killed it. And so, what does this have to do with fairies? Well, I don't know if it has anything to do with it, but I took it as a warning, like, stop what you're doing. Like, because if I can do this to a rabbit, I can do this to your dog. And I don't know, maybe I just made that up, but I wasn't convinced that it was wrong. So I just thought, okay, I'm just not messing with this fairy thing anymore. And I haven't. Okay, I have not done it. I still get the weird feeling when I go back there. But I haven't tried to leave any offerings or anything like that anymore. So I just kind of want to know what you all think about this. Like, am I totally crazy? And that's a distinct possibility. But something went on. And my husband talked to friends who go hunting, and they said, you know, it's possible that a fox left it there, and that a fox came back and took it away. The rabbit I'm talking about. Now, but would a fox or a wild animal be that neat about it? I mean, it's not like vultures came and tore it up and, you know, I don't even know. I would think vultures would leave hair and, you know, stuff around. It was just cleaned up like it had never been there. Okay, so that's weird. Now let me tell you one more thing, because this is about the land. We were buying this house, and it was about 5 years ago, and all of this land used to be a farm, okay? Now, we had a hard time buying it because, unbeknownst to us, the lawyer found out that this parcel of land was not to have been sold by whoever he left it to. Like, the relatives of the owner had sold pieces of this land everywhere. This was one piece that they were not allowed to sell. In his will, it said that they were not allowed to sell this 1/4 of an acre that I'm living on. Okay? It went through, like, they had to search for those people. They had to have them sign the paper to say they were going to do it against the will and all this stuff. I mean, and this had been done years ago, because in the back of us, part of this land has been sold to a housing development, which is why there's now a person living, like, in the back of us to the left. And the other part was sold to these other people on the other side. And so my question is, why, of all the land, was this 1/4 of an acre not to be sold? What is on this land? What is special about this land that it was not supposed to be sold? I don't know. Is somebody buried here? Is something buried here? Is there something special about this land? You know, I mean, I know there were Native Americans here at one time. Is it something to do with that? I don't know. And I really don't know how to find out. But there's a reason why this 1/4 of an acre was not supposed to be sold. And I think there's a reason why something's weird about it. All right. So I just wanted to, you know, put that out to you. It's really weird. I'd love to know what you think about it. And now let me tell you what Sylvia Browne said. And she's passed now, of course, but let me tell you what she said about fairies. She says, I know I'm about to erase any lingering public faith in my mental stability with this little section, but facts are facts, so it can't be helped. I've always loved the idea of fairies. I'm sure everyone who's clapped to bring Tinker Bell back to life, or grew up with a Celtic background, or in the British Isles, or simply heard the folklore, has always quietly believed that if you look very quickly, in exactly the right places, in exactly the right light, you just might see one of these tiny gossamer winged creatures. From what I could piece together through various myths and legends I heard as a child, fairies, invariably beautiful as they were, could be either good or bad. They could heroically save the day, clean your house, fly ahead of you as your faithful scout, or steal your baby. I said I loved the idea of them. I didn't say I had a firm grasp on the concept. My grandma Ada, as practical and grounded as she was brilliantly psychic, she was as casually sure of the existence of fairies as you and I are of the existence of carrots and bath towels. When I was a child, she regaled me with countless stories of the fairies she used to see outside her family home near Hamburg, Germany. I was delighted by every story she ever told, so I wasn't about to discourage her by admitting that a lawn full of fairies sounded darling, but I wasn't buying a single word she said. As I got older, I began to realize, thanks to a lot of travel and research, that Grandma Ada wasn't the only intelligent person who believed in fairies. I always believed there's an explanation for everything, and I don't rest until I figured out what it is. So I was actually relieved and a little proud of myself when I arrived at that brainstorm that fairies were obviously a form of tulpa, creatures conceived of in the mind who gain such wide acceptance that they take physical form. Okay, so there's like thought forms. Thank God that was settled once and for all. And then it was off to Ireland. The Irish loved to tell stories, and the local airport workers were no exception. From the moment we landed until we climbed into the hotel transport with our luggage, they were excitedly tripping over each other to make sure each new arrival heard about the recently rerouted runways. But there was constant bad luck because they kept running into fairy mounds and having to reroute them or something. To this day, I have no idea what they were talking about. I just remember chuckling to myself over what a great time they were having telling it, and how funny it was to see all these grown men in such a superstitious snit about the inevitable bad luck of fairy mounds. Living proof of what fools superstitions make of people, the poor things. We'd planned to devote a few days to being shamelessly cliched tourists, so we started with the most shameless and wonderful cliched tourist activity we could find, a horse and buggy ride around the Ring of Kerry. Even our driver was a cliche, tan plaid coat, oversized newsboy cap, an ancient face that looked like a map of Ireland, with a brogue and a smile that made him a dead ringer for Barry Fitzgerald in Going My Way. I couldn't take my eyes off the incredible landscape, lush and rich in more shades of green than I even knew existed, and I was kind of lost in my own private botanical heaven when we came around a bend and I looked ahead to see a gorgeous oleander so gigantic and healthy it almost looked surreal. And there, near its base, in a small patch of sunlight, I swear to God, sat a fairy. She was slightly less than a foot tall. She had blonde hair tied into a bun on the top of her head. She had on a shimmering green dress, and her translucent gossamer wings were moving a little in a passing breeze. Her head was tilted slightly back, as if she were enjoying the feel of the sun on her delicate, beautiful face. I can count on one hand the times in my life when I've been rendered speechless. This was one of those times. I couldn't even catch my breath, and my mind was short-circuiting. It's a mirage. I'm not seeing this. Maybe it's jet lag. This is ridiculous. I know perfectly well she's not real. All I have to do is blink. That's what I'll do, and she'll go away. I blinked. She was still there. She knew I was staring at her, and she didn't seem to mind a bit. She just looked back at me, not defiant, not shy, nothing more than a silent, I know you see me, and I see you. I'm sure I didn't move or breathe again until we went around another curve in the road and lost sight of her. I finally managed to collect myself enough to tap the driver on the shoulder and announce in a clenched voice, "Dear God, I think I just saw a fairy." He didn't even find it worth turning his head for. "So you did, miss. They live all over this area." "Are you serious?" I didn't mean to shriek quite as loudly as I did. Now he turned and smiled quietly and replied, "I saw her too." "Make of it what you will. As for me, I've said so many times in my life and career, I'm even tired of hearing myself say it. Until I've seen or experienced something more for myself, I don't believe it. I believe in fairies." And that is the end of Sylvia Browne's comment about fairies, her story about fairies. This was a New York Times best-selling, she was a New York Times best-selling author, Sylvia Browne, and this is called Phenomenon, Everything You Need to Know About the Paranormal. And this is actually a really good book, and it was published by Dutton, D-U-T-T-O-N, and I'm not sure what the date is. Let me see if I can find out in case you're interested. I found this at a used bookstore, and to me it was just very fascinating. Well, I don't see a publisher info. Where is it? It has to be here. Ah, here it is. Okay, and this was published in... Well, there has to be a date on it, doesn't there? In 2005. Okay. Well, the first printing was October 2005. So, if you're interested, she talks about everything. It's on the Akashic Records, angels, mind theory, incubus, karma, levitation, life force, phantasm, palmistry. I mean, it's like everything, every paranormal topic you can imagine. And a couple other books you might want to look at. I'm not going to review them right now, but this one's called Finding Fairies by Alexandra Rowland. And you know what? I have not read this one all the way, but if that looks interesting to you, I came to the part about ley lines. And this was published by Simon & Schuster. It's Tiller Press, an imprint of Simon & Schuster, and that was published in 2020. And then this one, The Fairy Bible by Teresa Moorey, M-O-O-R-E-Y, The Definitive Guide to the World of Fairies. And that was published by Sterling, New York in... hold on. And this one has lovely pictures. This was in 2008. It has really nice pictures, so you might enjoy that one too. But anyway, so... a lot of people are writing books about fairies. A lot of people believe in them. They're not all crazy. There's got to be something to this story, because if belief in fairies has been around for hundreds and maybe thousands of years, there's got to be something to it. It's like I don't know, when people laugh about astrology, it's like, dude, that's a science. It's been around for thousands of years. There's got to be something to it, or people would not still be believing in it or interested in it. So anyway, friends, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. Let me know if you think I'm crazy or sane. And I want to thank you for being here. I appreciate you. My members, I appreciate you so much more than you'll ever know. If there's anything you want to see in particular on this special members video channel, let me know, and I will try my best to do it for you. All right, so anyway, thank you. I hope you have a wonderful morning, afternoon, or evening, whatever it is where you are, and I hope to see you again soon. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.